Hello everyone. This is Jeevan Joshi, extending a warm welcome to all of you. I am the Director of Customer Solutions, Asia Pacific at Upside Learning, and your host for the webinar. Thank you for taking the time to attend our webinar, Personal Development and Blended Learning, Making Personal Development and Blended Learning Effective. Now for some quick introductions about Upside Learning. For over 9 years, we have been helping organizations of different sizes and types to improve the performance through better learning. With our head office in India, we serve clients based in UK, US, Australia, Middle East, North Africa, and other countries. Our wide range of innovative learning solutions includes Upside to Go, our mobile learning platform for performance support, Upside LMS, our multi-award winning learning management system, and custom learning solutions for desktops, tablets, and smartphones. We have been recognized and awarded by Brandon Hall, TrainingIndustry.com, Deloitte, CLO, Apex, Red Herring, and have won over 30 awards and recognitions till date. Well, now it's time to introduce the speakers. So I've kind of already started speaking. My name is Jeevan Joshi. I'm the Director of Client Solutions for Asia Pacific. But the main, I guess the main speaker today is Helen Blunden. Helen is the founder of Activate Learning Solutions, and I've had the pleasure of working with Helen in my previous jobs. We've been around in online learning for a long time, and very keen to explore the new vistas of e-learning. So at this point in time, I'm actually going to hand it over to Helen. So Helen, I'm going to hand over.
Great, thank you. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Let me just put it on the bigger view. How's that? Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Jeevan, for that kind introduction. As mentioned, my name is Helen Blunden and I'm from Activate Learning Solutions. My Twitter handle is @ActivateLearn, so feel free to follow me. I really, it's a pleasure to be invited to talk from Upside Learning today on a topic that's really important for me both personally and professionally. And I guess as learning and development professionals, we value the opportunity to share our knowledge and our tools and our techniques. So thank you for the opportunity for being able to present this information today. Our topic today will be on how to use Twitter to build a personal learning network. And I've said here that building a personal learning network, a PLN, is hard work. And that's because if you're thinking that it's something that magically happens, if it's something that you can buy or maybe even download, well, you're going to find it a bit of a surprise. But what I'll do here today is I'll talk about some of the things that I've done in order to build and create a network that's helped me both professionally and personally. If you're on Twitter already, feel free to tweet any of this information out. We can use the hashtag Upside Learning. So what that means is if you want to take a photo or if you want to send a tweet out, send out the tweet, but use the hashtag Upside Learning, so then we can follow that conversation. Alternatively, I'm more than happy if you've got a question, just type it into the chat box there, and I'll have a look at it and be able to answer the question. But first of all, I've got a poll that I'd like to launch, and that is, what do you mainly use Twitter for? I'm interested in what your thoughts are. So I'm going to launch the poll now, and just quickly have a go in answering any of those questions. What do you use Twitter for? You might not use it. You might use it to connect, share, or learn. You might even use it to share an opinion or have a whinge. Or maybe you don't use it at all. You stalk celebrities. Let's have a look. It looks as if we've got all our responses. So I'm going to close the poll now. Oh no, hang on, there's still people voting. Sorry, my apologies. So quickly respond to that poll. I'll just give it a few more seconds. Twitter's used for all sorts of things, and what we're going to concentrate on here today is basically on how to use it for sharing, learning, connecting and networking. Looks as if some people are still not voted, so I'm just going to close the poll and hopefully you can share. I'll share the results of the poll and you can see those. Can you see that?
Yes, we can, Helen.
Great, thanks. So it looks as if, yeah, sharing, learning, and connecting and networking is the best way to go, and that's how we would use Twitter for. So very good. Let's continue. The other thing is, well, so there are some people who think, well, what is Twitter? What, you know, if people are there asking, you know, what is it about? Could you please put in the chat session what you think Twitter is about? So for those of you who've used it, what are some of your perceptions, your thoughts, or your opinions? So quickly type something in the chat session so I can have a look at it and see what your opinions are about Twitter. So thanks, Jeevan. Yes, Twitter is short messaging. Anything else? As mentioned, Twitter is an opportunity to send short bursts of messages out to an audience. And the way I use it for is basically for sharing, learning and connecting. But initially some people might have particular myths or some thoughts about Twitter, which is what I did originally too. When I first got on Twitter, I really didn't understand the tool. I thought it was about sending irrelevant pieces of information out to a group of people. So I thought to myself, well, no one's really interested in what I have for lunch, or I thought it was going to be a waste of my time. I mistakenly thought that it was a tool, that it was just mainly for young people. And also I didn't know, back then I didn't know many people on Twitter, so I didn't have much of a following, so there was no audience out there. And sorry, I'm just saying, I'm going to, sorry about that. I just had a very quick message that I had to respond to. Hopefully that's okay, Jeevan. So just continuing on, some of the Twitter myths that need to be busted is Twitter's a great tool for, as I mentioned, sharing, learning and connecting, but there's certain myths that we need to bust, and these are the myths that I had when I originally got online on Twitter, and they might be ones that you did too. So we're going to bust those myths today. So what we're going to cover is we're going to cover the benefits of using Twitter as a tool to create and build and grow your own learning network. Now Twitter is strange. It's a strange tool because you're only allowed 140 characters to put a message out there. Now, to some people who like to talk a lot, like myself, 140 doesn't seem like a big number, but you'd be surprised at the type of conversations and the dialogue that do occur in that 140 characters. And also, Twitter is, you can add video, you can add links, you can add photos to your messages, but when you do that, the 140 characters actually reduces. But not to worry, you can still create a conversation. So Twitter is really, it's a real-time social medium that basically connects you to all the latest stories, the latest ideas, the latest opinions and the news that you would find interesting, and it could be on anything. You'd find the most compelling conversations on Twitter, and you can follow them, you can even contribute to them, and you can even start your own. So you've got it all in 140 characters, and I'll actually show you a dialogue and how a dialogue occurs on Twitter. some people ask me, well, what's the difference between Twitter and Facebook? Or they ask me, look, I've got a LinkedIn account. What's the difference between LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter? I'm confused. It's so much. Well, basically, social media is the opportunity to connect human to human. That's how I see it. And so the difference between Twitter and other social media is they each have their own, I guess, place and function. But what they do the same is they connect people to each other all around a particular topic, or a passion, or a hobby, or an interest, or a particular subject. Now, I don't use the word social media at work. For some reason, social media seems to have this negative connotation in organisations, and it needn't be. In my experience, when I say social media, people think of Facebook, and they may have a negative connotation with Facebook. However, don't think of social media in that term. Think of social media as collaboration tools, or media that basically covers a whole way of ways of how people connect and collaborate with each other. And you might even have social media in your own organisation, things like Yammer, which is a social networking platform, or many other platforms that are out there. That is all considered social media. So when you see these collaboration tools, don't think of them as frivolities, or think of them as ways that there are people out there that are connecting and learning from each other. And today we just happen to focus on Twitter, and we can do a very similar webinar, on each of these different social media tools separately, but we're only going to concentrate on Twitter. So how did I get into Twitter? How was I introduced to this tool? Well, surprisingly, by knitters. I've been knitting for many years now, over 35 odd years, and I taught myself. I wasn't one of these lucky people who had a mum or a grandmother to help me through knitting. Everything I got taught, it was through books or through teachers at my primary school. But later on in my life, through just trial and error, I managed to join these knitting groups, and these knitting groups occur all around the world, and they're all within various community centres or cafes all around the world. And what it is, it's people who are connected with their own passion or their interest or a hobby, and they get together, much like this picture here, and they, I joined this group, and they sit around a big table. They've got their yarn out, they've got their knitting needles out, but surprisingly, they also have their mobile devices out. So when I attend my knitting groups, there's knitters there who are not only practicing their craft and teaching others and sharing and learning from each other in a social group, but they also have their tools in front of them, like their iPads or their telephones, their smartphones, and when they're teaching people or teaching each other, they're actually taking photos of their work, they're taking videos of their work, and they're uploading that information into a community forum which is actually shared globally. So in effect, what they're teaching and what they're sharing or learning is actually being communicated beyond the four walls of that community centre. Now when I see that, that blew my mind, because I thought to myself, if here are people who are really passionate about their craft and about their expertise, and they're simply using the tools to create bridges into other communities and to share that information. And I thought to myself, learning and development people have a lot to learn from how they're using the tools, and it gave me ideas for how to connect. And so following on from just that example, one Saturday night, it was a Saturday afternoon, I was sitting on the sofa and I was surfing through Twitter, and it was back in my early days of not really understanding Twitter, and I stumbled upon this Knit Chat. And what a Knit Chat is, it's a real-time chat that's on Twitter for an hour at a particular time and a date. So say for example between the times 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, anywhere around the world, knitters from any country can join in on the conversation and be asked questions by a moderator of that tweet chat, and those questions all relate around to a particular topic or a theme or an expertise. So, in this particular example, there was the moderator was asking questions about particular knitting problems, and I stumbled upon this knit chat, and I looked at the questions, and I thought to myself, these are the problems that I'm having with my knitting. And here were people all around the world who were answering my questions, who were uploading quick video snippets or photos of their work or links to YouTube videos that were solving my problems. And that is when I had my total aha moment with Twitter as a tool to be able to expand and create my network and actually solve my problems that I had with knitting. And so I thought to myself, if there is a group of knitters out there who are sharing their information, who are sharing their knowledge, who are sharing their work, there has got to be people in learning and development who are doing the same. And yes, there was. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So, but you might ask the question, why would you need to even build a network? You know, well, let's have a look at what happens online in 1 minute. Now, this slide is about a year old, a little bit over a year old, but nevertheless, it does show you the mind-blowingly staggering figures of what happens online within a minute. All the Google searches that are conducted within a minute, how many YouTube videos are uploaded or viewed, how many domains are registered, how many blog posts are written, all the Skype calls that happen, the LinkedIn accounts. It is mind-blowing with the amount of information that is out there today. And simply as L&D professionals, we can't keep up with all that information. Gone are the days where we can become experts in each and every single thing. Nowadays, we simply can't keep up. And so building and creating a network will be able to connect you with the people who are those experts. So in effect, building and creating a network is one of the core critical skill sets that as L&D professionals we need to have, and we need to role model. I mean, think about your life. Think about you know, what you've studied. For me, you know, I was back at university some 24, 25 years ago, and I know that I have not used what I was taught at university in my current life. And even now, thinking back to even some years back in the early 90s when I was working on online stuff, what I knew then is not current information to what I can use in my current work now. So we have to ask ourselves, is our reality out of date? Think about, is the knowledge and the skills that you've got currently or that you were taught or you gained some 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, is that still current? I'm willing to bet that it isn't. So we need to keep up with changes as L&D professionals. We need to role model and learn and network with the people who do have access to this information. So networks make us entrepreneurial learners, and Jane Hart, who I would strongly recommend you follow her on her Twitter account, and she's at C4LPT. She's a strong advocate of promoting the skills that L&D professionals need to have to become entrepreneurial or even networked learners. I like to use the term network learners. And she says, in a world of increasingly rapid change, the half-life of a skill is constantly shrinking to about 5 years. So it's going to become a really vital for everyone in this new world of flows to stay relevant on top of all the knowledge and skills, just to be employable in today's marketplace. So that is quite an eye-opener. So the benefits of having a network and using Twitter to grow and build that network, there's a lot of benefits, and let's have a look at these. Well, number one, it increases your capability. It increases your capability because you're connected directly to the people and other networks and other subject matter expertise. It keeps you up to date in your field, because immediately you'll know where the new trends are, what's happening in the field. You'll find out what people are working on. You'll find out what companies are doing in those fields. It basically builds networks into new areas, and it fires up your interest and passion as well. I know for me, it's re-engaged me with my work. I come back to work quite excited with some new and innovative ideas that I could instantly put into application at work. The other benefit is it allows you to collaborate with others locally, nationally and internationally. So gone are the days where you could turn to your colleague next to you at work and say, hey, what do you think about this? You can ask that same question to a global network and get such diverse responses out there that you can immediately bring back to your team and your organisation. And last of all, as I mentioned, it engages you with your own work, and it makes you become much more creative and inspired. So very, very good ways to it's a network. So, but you know what? You do have to work at it. Like I mentioned at the start when I introduced the slide, you do have to work at it, and it does take some time, but in a relatively short time you can start to build a network of people that you can learn from. But it does require you to do certain things, and what I've written here is, I would strongly recommend that you participate and don't lurk. By lurk I mean just reading or passively participating in tweets. So if you do see something that is of interest, why not contribute? Respond to that tweet, or if you see something that someone has written and it triggers a reference or an article that you have read that is of relevance, why not link them to that article? So what I'm saying here is share what you know, share your information, share any good references that you have. Don't hold back on it, because what it does, it allows other people to open their trust in you, that you have some information that you can share openly, and before you know it, you'll actually become, I guess, you get to be known as someone who is trustworthy, and you begin to manage your own online brand and reputation. So this is my personal learning network, and these are people who some people I've met in person, many people I haven't met, but when I see them write blogs or posts on Twitter, I immediately read their posts, because I know that they've got something that is of relevance to me. And each person on this screen has their own subject matter expertise in something. And I know I can ask a question to them and be guided by responses that are meaningful, that can have instant context and are helpful to me for my work. And so think about, in your life, you might have a network of people that you trust, that you would go to for information. Now, my PLN happens to be all online, they're all global, and this is just some of them. And who knows, one day maybe you might even meet them face to face, like I did last year when I had an opportunity to travel to London for pleasure. But I used the opportunity to send out a tweet, and I said, hey guys, I'm in London, would love to meet. And one of my network members organised a lunch and also after work drinks, which then became dinner. And throughout the whole day, people came and went at this event, and I had an opportunity to actually meet them face to face. Now, all these people here are in learning and development, working in London organisations. We all have the same issues, we have the same problems, we have the same challenges, we have the same similar opportunities. But boy, was it a great opportunity to just chat with people and say, hey, what are you doing? What are you working on in your organisation? What are the challenges that your organisation is facing? What are you doing within learning? And really getting some wonderful, wonderful ideas of what people have done in their own organisations. And I took that back. I took that back into my own organisations, and I would say, I could say that one particular company has dispensed with all their formal learning programs because they're all doing coaching and workplace learning, and I'm able to put them in direct contact with people who are doing that simply because my networks and these people have given me access to a whole heap of different tools, ideas, diverse thoughts, and just interesting projects that I could immediately apply. So this is the benefit of networks. If you want to get more of an idea of the power of networks, I strongly recommend you do a search on YouTube for The Power of Networks by Manuel Lima, and it's a short 11-minute RSA animate video that talks about how we can use networks to build ourselves professionally and being able to work in such a complex, highly networked world. So I would strongly recommend viewing that video. Now, recall how I said before that, Twitter has only a limited amount of characters. Well, here is an example of a dialogue that occurred between two people, and I'll just quickly go through how Twitter uses a mix of different symbols like hashtags and @ symbols to create a conversation. And the Thyssen here, the lady up on the top says Blackboard, which is an LMS. She said, Blackboard has scared me off #etMOOC, and she's hashtag #etMOOC, which means she's talking about this massive open online course, and she's using the hashtag to filter the conversations. And she's saying that LMS has scared her off for some reason. She's saying that the archives are good, but the live connection is still daunting for her. Now look what happens immediately, 1 hour afterwards. Alec Kouros comes online and he responds directly to Thyssen, and you can see that by his @Thyssen symbol, which means he's directly responding to her. And he says he would love for her to try it. How can we be more supportive? The Blackboard sessions have been quite fun. And she responds an hour later. Once again, she responds directly back to him, and she says, I just have to try it. It's just like doing a video. And she mentions someone else here, 4Cogdog. So she's mentioning someone else and then saying that it would be a challenge for her to try it, and that's why she retweeted Activate Learning. That's my blog. So as you can see, simply by using hashtags and @ symbol, there's a conversation that is happening. Now I can see this conversation because I follow both Thyssen and Alec, okay? And I also follow Cogdog, so I saw this conversation happening. If I didn't follow these people, I wouldn't see this conversation. And I could have easily joined this conversation by simply replying to them and joining in. And you can see conversations like this on Twitter quite often. Another way to build and create your network is using what's known as a back channel. Now remember what I said about learning happening beyond the 4 walls of a centre, of a community centre like my knitting group. Well, imagine that learning happening beyond the 4 walls of a conference venue. And this is how I also am able to network and connect with people. I don't know about you, but I have a hard time trying to influence my employer to pay over $1,000 for me to go on a conference at any one stage. So what I do is I know what learning conferences are happening all around the world. So I find out what the hashtag is, and in that real time, when that conference is happening in real time, I get on Twitter and I search that hashtag, and I immediately connect in with the presenters and with the people who are there in person at that conference, and I can see what they're talking about. I can see what presentations are being presented by the conference presenters or the organisers. I can see what vendors are promoting with their products and services. I can see the conversations, and it is a brilliant, brilliant way to connect with other people who are there in person who have the same interests. So I would strongly, strongly recommend, if you want to build and create your network, is to join any of these conferences that are happening any time of the year through their conference back channels. But some people say to me, well, this is all fine and good, Helen, but aren't you afraid of social media? What happens if, you know, my boss finds out what I write online? You know, social media does have some fear factors for some people, especially if your organisation has a social media policy. And all I can say here is, of course, follow the social media policy that you have, but at the same time, see what you can do with regards to influencing your employer and getting them to see that social media can be used for good. Social media can be used for building your own network and for bringing real value back into your organisation and your team. And these are some of the questions that I get from people saying, well, you know, how do I explain this to my boss? You know, what if I write something in there and it's misconstrued? There's a real fear of people losing their job or finding out what people would write. And for me, I would say be open, you know, follow the social media policy. These are all genuine concerns, but if you're using social media in the context of professional and personal development, it is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant tool for both yourself and immense, immense value for your organisation. So if there is any opportunity to be able to influence your employer or influence your L&D manager on using these tools to be more networked and to learn what is going on within our profession, I would strongly recommend that you do that. So what I would say is, you know, I used to be on that bottom steps many years ago. I thought to myself, I'm not going to use it. I don't see the value of social media. It's not for me. But with time, I did see that there is true value, and simply by connecting with other people who put me in contact with subject matter expertise or with topics that I'm not across, it's actually opened my eyes. So I'd strongly recommend that, you know, if you're sitting on that bottom step, do something every day that will get you up to the next step, and you'd be surprised at what you can achieve. So this is my favourite part. I would say be curious, be experimental, dip your toes in the water. I would say open up a Twitter account. That would be your first thing. And you know what? Follow me if you like, and I'd be more than happy to coach you through using Twitter for the best benefit of how you want to use it. So follow me and I can help you out. I'd also say follow leaders in learning, and then also see who they follow, because if you get leaders in learning and you see who they follow, you can immediately get information at the source. I would also say join in on the conversation. Don't be afraid of responding to a tweet. Don't feel afraid of sharing a link or, you know, uploading a photo of what you're doing. Show your work, and you'd be surprised at what connections can occur. Participate in a tweet chat, and I've got 2 tweet chats here that you may be interested in. One is an Australian tweet chat that occurs every second Tuesday of every month at 8 o'clock in the evening for an hour. That's where L&D people get online and we talk about a particular topic of interest for learning people for an hour, and it's a great way, if you're new to Twitter, to start connecting with people immediately. Or alternatively, every Friday around midday, it's 11 till 12, there's the American Learn Chat, which is #LearnChat. So effectively what it means is you get online at those times on Twitter, do a search on Learn Chat, and you'll immediately see the questions and you can start contributing straight away. The other thing that you might consider doing is I run workshops for you and your learning teams, and those workshops can occur either in person or virtually. I've been running Twitter for professional development workshops, so I'm more than happy to run sessions for your teams. I also help organisations look at how to use their enterprise social networking platforms. Such an example is Yammer in their learning programs, and I'm currently working on one social onboarding program using Yammer. So there's opportunities there to integrate social media and networks and communities in your learning programs. And there's other programs such as blogging for professional development and the new skills of how to curate content that I can run if this is of interest as well. So here are my details. You can find me online, but technically I'm on Twitter all the time. I think Twitter is the best way that you can contact me straight away. Just simply follow me and send a tweet, and I'd be happy to follow up. Alternatively, you've got my mobile address, my website is there. I've got a very active blog where I show my work and I give examples of how I use certain tools, so feel free to follow me there. Other than that, if there are any questions, please let me know. Just put them in the chat section or in the questions section. Otherwise, please feel free to connect with me via Twitter. I hope that you have found it quite valuable, and I look forward to connecting with you online on Twitter. So that's it from me, and I'll hand over to Jeevan now.
Thank you, Helen. Just waiting for my screen to come on board. Okay. Alrighty, so hopefully you can see my screen on your PC screen. Okay, so first let's start with a question. You know, in your little chat box or QA panel, could you write me the answer to this question? How many new users sign up to Twitter every day? So, you know, how many new users sign up to Twitter every day? We've just had one today. Jackie, one of our participants, has signed up to her Twitter as the webinar was going on. So yeah, so just in your little QA box, if you can just type and guess how many new Twitter signups are there every day. So I'll wait for your responses. But thanks, Helen, for that excellent overview of Twitter as a personal learning tool and your own journey in terms of discovering, exploring, and now teaching about Twitter and the benefits of Twitter. So thank you, that was excellent. So we've got one guess from Lynette. It's 1 million users every day. Okay, Lynette, we'll just reserve that answer for now. Any more answers? I'll be happy to see them on the screen. So let's talk about Twitter as a tool for business, and in specific, a tool that can be used for learning in organizations and in corporates. So let's look at, let's talk about the scale, this massive scale that Twitter is about. So we've got another number from Stacy. The answers will come up very, very soon on the screen. So there are about 645 total number of active registered Twitter users. So that's 645 million. 135,000 are the number of people, new people who sign up for Twitter every day. I've got a question from Rosie. I do have an account, but how do I keep connected to it? And I think, Helen, what we'll do is we'll just reserve the answer to that question for the QA session at the very end. So if you can answer that question at the end, is how Rosie does have a Twitter account, but how does Rosie use it, and how does Rosie stay connected to that? So let's keep that for the Q&A session coming up. The next statistics about our own Twitter account, which is at Upside Learning. In the total time that we've been on Twitter, we've got 10,500 tweets. A lot of it self-generated, talking about our own thoughts and our own information, but also retweeting, other people who have some relevant tweets in the field of learning development, e-learning, performance support, etc. In terms of the number of followers, we've got 7,575 followers, and we ourselves are following 5,413. So that's not a bad ratio. So we are kind of ahead in the number of people who are followers. So that's a good stat. Moving on to the next slide. In terms of the number of tweets, there are 58 million tweets per day. And if you're I don't know, Helen, if you're there, but would you have an average number of tweets that you do per day?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would love to find out. There are different tools that we can use. Personally, I don't know because I don't really take a stock of it. That might be a question when I can answer the other question that was asked before, because I use Twitter at certain parts of the day, but I'm also mindful of how many tweets I do send out. I don't have an answer really. It could be one, it could be many, but yeah, you just have to be careful not to be too many before you get known as a spammer.
Very true. My tweets also range between 2 and 10 to 15 per day, so depending upon the time I have and the mood I am in. So yeah, so plenty of tweets going around. Luckily they don't have to rely on just Helen and me to generate the tweets. We've got about 9,100 tweets every second. And interesting statistic is that 40% of the Twitters who they don't tweet but watch other people tweet. So they're kind of silent observers. 60% tweet, 40% sit back and read and just follow. Okay, so let's talk about Twitter as a tool. We've talked about the scale. Helen talked about use as a personal learning network. Let's talk about what are the different uses of Twitter in business. So if you were to break up into 3 buckets, customers. So companies reaching out to customers through tweet. So for example, Starbucks has 5.85 million Twitter followers for their Twitter account. Telstra has 56,000, almost 57,000 followers for their Twitter account. And if you look at the tweets, if you go to either Starbucks or Twitter, they do tweet about things that are happening within Telstra. New products, new services, new offers. Starbucks might have a promotion. So yeah, so anybody who's a Starbucks fan, personally I'm not a big fan of Starbucks coffee, but you can follow Starbucks. But companies are also using Twitter to communicate with their partners, suppliers, keeping them up to date about the different products and services. For example, if Upside Learning comes up with a new solution, we would send short messages to our partners, and also to keep, information about compliance-related information. Yes, there's a new policy that's come out for suppliers. The link is on the website. So that could be another Twitter. But more importantly, what we're focusing on today is Twitter for the use of learning for employees. So certainly that's an expanding area, and Helen works in that space. We at Upside Learning have a strong social learning, social media focus, so that's incorporated in our solutions, which we'll cover a little bit later, but it's a very strong area for growth. So in terms of customers, it's marketing, sales, customer service. Dell, for example, if you've got a problem with your Dell computer, you can go to the Dell customer service Twitter account and put in your request, and they usually get back to you. In terms of employees, it can be used for employee communications. So there's a new message from the CEO on the SharePoint site, or there is a new product that the company has released, or there is a new engagement survey that's going out, or the results of the engagement survey. For example, 70% of employees engaged. We are working on improving that survey response. So in terms of learning, we'll cover that in a little bit more detail, but also ask for new ideas in terms of innovation about new products and services that a company could come up with. For example, do you have any ideas of how we could make our products more relevant to under 20s, people who are under 20 years old? So that Twitter goes out, and any employee who has an idea can tweet back. So it's a good way of collecting and collaborating. So let's have a look at some of the statistics from McKinsey. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the link to this report, which is a very interesting report, and I'm sure I'm sure that if you go there, you can certainly view the report, and there's lots of interesting statistics. So it's coming in the chat very soon. And here goes. So let's look at the statistics there. So what are the use of Web 2 tools for employees? So at the top is the social networking, 40%. So organizations are using social networking, and microblogging, which is Twitter, is 20%. So you can see that amongst the Web2 tools, microblogging / Twitter is one that is used the most in the top 5. The other ones are online video conferencing, collaborative document editing, wikis are being used a lot, but microblogging is 20% and increasing. So it's an interesting statistic to have a look at, and also the PDF. If you can go there to the report and have a look, you can see all the statistics. Okay, moving on. So, keeping this in mind, the fact that Twitter can be used, or Twitter-like tools can be used for employee learning and employee collaboration, what we've done in Upside Learning is incorporated, I guess, predicted this trend and this requirement, and built-in tools that use Twitter. For example, we've got integration with live Twitter, so integration with Twitter.com. We also have Twitter internally, right? Because there are some security concerns or privacy concerns around Twitter. So Upside LMS actually has internal Twitter, which is just shared between the Upside LMS users in your organizations. Within the LMS, we also have the concept of friends and followers, very similar to Facebook. That's another social media-like component. We also have the ability of sharing photos, videos, and then rating those photos and videos. A blog that can be written by users. You can also integrate my RSS feed and integration with MediaWiki. All this within the LMS to make your the curriculum or online courses richer with more sharing. So certainly, if anybody needs any information, please feel free to contact us about the social components of Upside LMS and Upside to Go. We've already discussed, so just from the different things that we've incorporated, social media tools that we've incorporated in Upside LMS, microblogging, blogs, video sharing, podcasts, and ratings. So it's all there. So in terms of our own screenshots of our LMS, you can see that you've got the friends concept. You can kind of social network within LMS. You also have a dashboard which integrates internal and external tutors. So certainly those are incorporated. For this innovation, we've actually won 2 goals for blended or informal learning from Brandon Hall and 3 silvers for social learning technology incorporation, plus other other awards that we have. But certainly, Upside LMS is recognized as one of the LMSs which has incorporated social learning and social media. So let's look at Twitter for learning. So Twitter can be incorporated at different levels, right? At one level is at the portal. So this could be an enterprise portal which could have Twitter integrated. The other is Twitter integration within the HR or talent management system. Finally, the one that we're looking at is LMS. That's the screenshot you saw. But there's also now ability to integrate Twitter-like or social media components within online courses, right? So some of the online content development tools are making widgets available that can be incorporated within the online course. So as a company, we've also been asked to incorporate Twitter feeds into the online course itself. So there are many levels in which your Twitter feed or microblogging could be incorporated. So it's really important for you to kind of think whether you need to incorporate all levels, or if there needs to be an overlap just to make sure the messages are going out consistently. In terms of the, for example, in Upside LMS, we've got the LMS Twitter and Twitter feeds. But in terms of implementing the social learning, there are certain factors that you need to take into consideration, and there are a lot more than I've shown on the screen, and we could have a long discussion on this. But essentially, what you need before you set out is some kind of an expectation around the governance and governance and expectations of the use of Twitter. So it will be nice to have some rules. Twitter and social media does have a lot of common sense rules, and usually less of the rules the better. But if your organization is insisting on having some social media rules, it's good to discuss that with the company so that there are no surprises. But I think more importantly, as Helen has also mentioned, is the quality and the quantity of tweets. So you can see that some people on Twitter have huge following and others don't, right? And that's got to do with the factor that some of those people who have large number of followers do tweet quite frequently and do tweet about content that is relevant to their users. So that's certainly very important. It is also a component of community management. So if you've got, let us say, 300 communities, 300 followers, that is a community that you have to manage. So you have to kind of make sure that that the number of followers are increasing, that there is value add to your followers. So sure, even marketing tweets do come through, but if it is mixed with a lot of other value add, which are not marketing tweets, then people are fairly okay in terms of following you. If your tweets are only marketing, then you can be pretty sure that the numbers are going to shrink very quickly. So it's always a question of value add. So this is a little bit about the setup, and in terms of let's talk about a couple of user cases, right? So let's talk about classroom training and how Twitter can add value to classroom training. So just some examples. You could have pre-classroom activities, post-classroom activities, and performance support in which Twitter could be incorporated, right? So you could use Twitter in terms of communicating with your participants, giving them small snippets of the learning content and the learning objectives. You could also use classroom within the classroom training where people are asked to tweet their insights, like Helen mentioned, as a back channel. So that captures all the knowledge and the insights. And then finally, you could also do the same with post-classroom activities where you are reinforcing the key messages from the classroom training. So if you have a classroom on business acumen skills, on leadership training, you could write a tweet which relates back to a key message and send a tweet about whether they're applying the classroom learning to their workplace. In terms of, so lots of ideas there. In terms of the second user case is, you could also use it for requirements gathering, for pre-course logistics, pre-reading, to gather comments and insights, reinforce key learnings, and reinforce learning. So this is the user case that we discussed. Let's talk about user case 2, online training. So how can you incorporate Twitter to enrich and extend the learning of users? So as I mentioned, some content development tools like Adobe have now started producing widgets that can be incorporated within an online course. So it pulls in tweets which are relevant to the course content. But certainly once the online training has been completed, for example, on your LMS, you could send out tweets to all your followers or all the people who have done that online training through tweets on that particular course, which could be compliance training or it could be a new product training, for example, and certainly extend that again to performance support. So some ideas for you to consider to use Twitter and incorporate that within your own learning mix. But like Helen said, I think it's important to take the first few steps for you yourself to become comfortable with Twitter before incorporating and using it with learners. So a couple of user cases which hopefully you will allow you to extend the learning resources used within classroom training, online training, and how Twitter can be used as part of that. So I think I will end there because I do want to leave some about 5 minutes for questions from the audience. So at this point in time, Helen and I are happy to answer any questions that you may have. We're also happy to stay back for a little bit longer, after our webinar closes, so that you can certainly ask us any questions. I'm going to send a link to a very interesting PDF file or report, which is the use of Twitter in higher education classroom. So the use of Twitter in classroom, an assessment by Adeline Coe. The link is there, so if you can just open up the PDF and have a read. It gives quite interesting facts about how Twitter could be used within a classroom scenario. So certainly lots of learning there because it is the education sector where the use of Twitter is being most extensively used. So at this point in time, I think I'll probably finish off my slides, and please do visit our websites or follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handles are there, and if you certainly do want to have a look at Upside LMS, we're very happy to do a quick demo. But at this point in time, I would like to kind of open the floor for any questions that any of you may have. Now you can ask those questions through your chat box. If you just post a question, we will pick it up. But I think Helen probably start off with the first question that that Rosie asked about. I do have an account, but how do I keep connected to it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Basically, connection actually means that you're using it often, and the way I say to people is look at your day, look at when you can sit for 5, 10, 15 minutes of your day where you can quietly go through your tweets and use that as an opportunity for your quiet development time. So for example, the way I get connected to it, my best time is in the morning when I'm quietly having my breakfast and a cup of coffee, and I'm scanning my tweets, and that's the time when I'm reading them and looking at the ones that would be relevant to me. And then what I do is I highlight them or I favourite them and then come back to them and read them in depth at some later stage. So in answer to your question is, I would say devote some time during the day. It could be during your commute or during a lunchtime or at some time where you can sit down for 5, 10 minutes and actually go through it. And so it becomes just part of the way you work during the day, and that way you don't feel overwhelmed. So if you're just starting out in Twitter, you'll probably have a small group of followers, and this is what I was saying before. Try and follow people who you can learn from. So, if your area of interest is learning and development, focus on people who are in that sphere. If it's on something else, then focus on that. And so that way you're seeing the tweets that they're generating and that information, so you're learning from it. I hope I've answered that question. If not, just write your question in the chat section. Hope that helps.
No, thanks, Helen. I think that's a really good response. I think, like you mentioned right at the beginning of the webinar, it is about spending time and taking interest, and just one of those things. It's like a habit that the more time you spend and the more you do it, the better it becomes. It becomes more natural. So I think that's a great response. So, if are there any more questions for either Helen or myself? We'll be very happy to answer. So we'll wait for a minute. And if there are no questions, and if we have been extremely good and answered all your questions in our presentation, that's probably where we will end our webinar. So just wait for a couple of seconds if there are any questions. In the meantime, while we wait for any questions to come up, I would like to thank Helen and also the team at Upside for participating in the webinar. And we, also, of course, thank you to all of you who have taken the time out just before the Easter break to come and participate in the webinar. Hopefully you have gained something from this. The recording of this webinar will be made available on the Upside Learning website. So, if you want to revisit it or want to recommend the webinar to any of your colleagues or friends, please feel free to do it. So I think we've got no more questions. So at this point in time, we'll probably say thanks everyone, and thank you for attending the webinar, and we look forward to seeing you at our other webinars. Thanks.
Thank you everyone. Bye-bye.